Now a NewsNation exclusive. Schools and parents looking for ways to keep children safe in the wake of the deadly Uvalde school shooting. A district in Florida has been taking that goal seriously for years, spending approximately $65 million this year to make it happen. Efforts ramping up after 17 people died in a school shooting in Parkland, Florida. The Miami-Dade district has 18,000 live cameras feeding into their police command center. NewsNation's Brooke Schaefer has a look at other checkpoints that are in place.
Inside this command center, NewsNation getting close-up access to public schools in Miami-Dade County. 18,000 live cameras keeping an eye on every school in the county and any potential threats.
We're very fortunate here in Miami-Dade County to have so many resources.
Edwin Lopez is the police chief for Miami-Dade Public Schools, the fourth largest school district in the country with the largest police force.
We deal with a large amount of threats due to the volume of our school district. We have hundreds of thousands of students.
They often partner with Secret Service or the FBI to investigate what can be an onslaught of threats coming in at all hours.
These threats have no specific time. They come in at 10 at night, at 2 in the morning, so they often have to wake up and start working these cases in order to ensure that school the next day starts in a safe manner.
Safety at schools is top of mind following last week's deadly mass shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Miami-Dade Schools Police Headquarters about an hour from Parkland, the scene of yet another mass shooting at a school in 2018.
We know that during these critical incidents, time is of the essence, and within the first few seconds or minutes are when the casualties occur. So our officers train on a single-person response during active shooter incidents, and that's critical. There is no delay in our response.
Police in Miami-Dade even use a special technology to quickly alert them to the sound of gunshots in the area. Across the country, there are recommendations, but no requirements or federal standards for school safety. But Chief Lopez says there is one requirement for him and his team should there be an active shooter at one of their schools.
If there's an individual that's coming to our schools to hurt innocent kids, our officers are specifically trained to neutralize the threat. And in other words, to kill the person that's trying to kill our children.
And that chief says they can't guarantee anything, but they are adding layers of safety there. So it is Friday, which means we have our Rush Hour Roundtable. And this week, we are bringing in our panel a bit earlier to discuss news all throughout the hour. So first, let's introduce you to our panel today. We do have Ashley Banfield, host of Banfield on NewsNation. Next, Megan Basham, reporter for the Daily Wire. Mark Lamont Hill, professor of media studies and author of the new book, Seen and Unseen Technology, Social Media, and the Fight for Racial Justice. And last but not least, Capri Cafaro, cookbook author and host of Eat Your Heartland podcast and radio show. So we just heard Brooke's piece there. Our big question, is this the best way to protect schools? Ashley, let's start with you.
I kept thinking about all those video monitors, and wow, that's amazing. So are you then able to watch as a school shooter takes out about 15 or 20 children within a couple of minutes? Because seeing it can only stop it after a while. And these guns that are being used in these school shootings, the AR-15 in particular, they kill people very quickly. So I think it's kind of novel and great that you can maybe see somebody, but the damage gets done awful darn quick.
Can I jump in here, if I may? I'm sorry, because I actually, what you didn't mention in the intro is that I was a state senator and elected official for a decade. And during that time, I actually represented a community that had a school shooting for people, for high school students in the Chardon City schools, died at the hands of an active shooter in that community. It's a wonderful community, a small community, and not a community that would have been able to afford what Miami-Dade is doing. So while it is innovative, I think we have to recognize that, school districts and, local law enforcement and local governments are incredibly stretched. And so we have to think about this in a multidimensional approach. It's incredibly sad, in my opinion, that as we sit here and children are being buried in Texas, and we've seen this time and time again, that we have to have these conversations about how we best protect children and students in classrooms and have to do it with, this like state-of-the-art technology. That's not going to be possible in all circumstances. But we have to ask ourselves why. Why are we in this position as a society right now dealing with this in the way that we are in such frequency?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, this is actually one of the more reasonable proposals that I'd still very much disagree with. I've heard the, good guy with a gun beats bad guy with a gun theories. I've heard armed teachers. I've heard, in this case, surveil the entire district, and so everyone feels like they're being watched. To Ashley's point, as these powerful weapons do their damage very, very quickly before people have time to intervene often. I think the fundamental issue here, the answer here, is not to figure out more ways to increase the punishment state and the surveillance state and the police state, but instead to get at the fundamental issues here. How do we get guns out of society? How do we stop access? How do we create the kind of mental health resources so that young people in particular don't feel compelled to go and shoot up supermarkets and schools and all this other stuff? How do we meet people's needs? It seems to me that we're still committed to figuring out how to respond to craziness and crisis rather than figuring out how to truly prevent it from happening in the first place.
I mean, it seems like I actually feel really heartened by the discussion that we're having here, because it does seem very solutions-oriented and not highly partisan-oriented. And I think that's part of what these debates devolve into immediately after a shooting. And is this the best way, what they're doing in Miami-Dade? I'm not sure, but I think it's one of the possible, arrows that we can work with here. Let's look at that. Let's look at surveillance. Let's look at having armed officers. Let's look at maybe why some red flag laws seem to have failed here. Certainly, we knew going in that this young man was deeply troubled. We have heard stories about him threatening to rape and kill girls in his classroom. We have heard stories of him torturing and killing animals and posting pictures of himself with dead animals. So there were a lot of warning signs here, and I think we can look at that all up and down the chain and go, why do these warning signs continually fall through the cracks? And I think that's a really good question. As to the question of, well, it's sad that we need to have these conversations. It is sad, and given that we all kind of disagree on potentially what may be causing it, is it fatherlessness? Is it breakdown in community connection, community involvement? Is it a lack of faith, of church in communities? We have to have those conversations. And this conversation that we're having now is really good.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I think it's hard to necessarily or to try to draw through lines there, because I mean there are plenty of children whose fathers are not involved in their lives, who are not going and shooting up schools, or who come from single parent families, or who maybe don't go to church every week.
How are you going to get those signs? Right? That cat business was deep into the ugly web, and so was his rape threats. That's not something that's going to show up at a store, even if we pass these red flag laws, right? That kid wouldn't have shown up in any documentation necessarily anywhere. We would have had to have report society, right? That we would have had to now establish, now you have to report every single person for all the weird stuff they do as teenagers, so that we have documentation of it, so that the red flag law, kicks into effect before the AR-15 comes off the wall and into his hands. And I don't think that's a solution either.
Threatening to rape and kill, it goes a little beyond weird stuff we do as teenagers. I mean, look, we have research that shows if you torture and kill animals, that's something more than, I'm
with you.
That is way beyond that.
So Megan, I'm with you 100%. The only problem is that he's saying that to other kids, and he's saying that to other people who are young. He wasn't saying that in an open schoolroom where a teacher who's a member of, of the public good could report him. So it's almost as though, unless, lucky us, we have another teenager who decides to tell on him, we're not going to have documentation for that 18-year-old boy. And so he would be able to go and buy that gun, even though he's done really creepy stuff online to his friends.
And Mark, in so many of these cases, we did have documentation. In Buffalo, we had documentation. In the Parkland case, we had documentation. When they start going in, you find out that there are records, and nothing happened.
That's true. And Mark, I know you had wanted to say something.
I think all these things are most of these things are true. I think that, yeah, if we have red flags and smoking guns, we should use them as evidence to not give people weapons and to not allow people to have access to weapons. I think we all agree to that. No one is saying if a kid is torturing a cat that we should give him an AR-15. I think the question is how easy is it to know that, and should that become the thing that we use as the linchpin to decide whether it's going to happen?
Right.
But I think lastly, while we're throwing things out here, I don't want us to say, well, you know, there's lots of things and we should just weigh everything, because when we start weighing everything and saying, well, let's measure their faith and let's measure their fatherlessness and let's measure, when we start throwing all those things out, it makes it seem as if those things are as predictive as things that are far more important. And that's the only thing I would be concerned about.
Absolutely. All right, panel, we do have to move on. We're going to bring everyone back, though, in just a few minutes. We're going to discuss another topic. I appreciate everybody weighing in on this one. Obviously, no easy answers here, as we see time and time again. All right, next. What went wrong during the manhunt for a convicted